When you think about running a trucking company, it's easy to get caught up in the image, right? Big rigs, open roads, building your own thing. It's definitely got that appeal.
It really does, that freedom of the road idea.
But the reality, the thing that actually keeps those wheels turning isn't always quite so glamorous. We're talking about paperwork.
Right. It's the compliance, the record keeping, even audits. Not exactly thrilling stuff, maybe, but honestly, it's the absolute backbone of a solid trucking business.
Yeah, it keeps you compliant, keeps things running smoothly, keeps you ready for, well, pretty much anything.
Exactly. And look, the goal of this deep dive isn't to turn you into a lawyer or an accountant overnight.
No, definitely not.
It's about getting straight to the point, giving you clear, usable knowledge. We've really tailored this for you, whether you're running one truck as an owner-operator or managing a whole fleet.
The idea is to help you feel confident, stay audit ready, keep the finances healthy, and just worry less.
So how are we going to tackle this? Well, first, we'll really dig into why good record keeping is so fundamental.
Okay.
Then we'll zero in on those key compliance areas you absolutely have to watch. Things like the MCS 150, drug testing.
Got it.
We'll also talk about being proactive, like setting up a mock audit, which sounds scary but isn't.
A practice run.
Yeah. And finally, we'll cover some best practices and, the software tools that can make all this so much easier.
Sounds like a solid plan.
Yeah.
So let's start right there at the foundation. Why is this record-keeping stuff so important? I kind of like thinking of records as the company's toolbox.
That's a great analogy, actually. A really good way to put it. Your business is this complex machine, right? And when something goes wrong, maybe a form is missing or registration slips, or you miss some crucial maintenance, having good organized records, that's like having the exact right tool ready to go.
So you could fix it fast before it becomes a huge problem.
Precisely. It stops a little hiccup from turning into a major breakdown for your whole operation.
Okay, so quick fixes, sure. But what about the bigger picture benefits? For the owner, the manager listening right now, how does this toolbox really pay off day to day?
Well, the most immediate payoff is proving compliance. Simple as that. An inspection, an audit happens. If your records are straight, you just show them. Boom, done.
And that saves you from
Huge fines, penalties that can really hurt, or even worse, getting your trucks parked on the side of the road unable to earn. That's a nightmare scenario.
Yeah, definitely want to avoid that.
But it's more than just avoiding the bad stuff. Your records, they're packed with data. You can actually track how your company is performing, its financial health, really accurately.
So it becomes a strategic tool.
Exactly. That data helps you make smarter decisions about growth, about efficiency. Suddenly, that seemingly boring paperwork is actually helping you build a stronger business.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So foundation laid. Let's get into those specific compliance areas then. The things you have to get right to stay legal and safe. Where do we start?
Let's kick off with the MCS 150 biennial update. This one is, well, non-negotiable for keeping your DOT number active and valid.
Right, the MCS 150, that's the form for the FMCSA,
Yeah.
updating your company info. Address, number of trucks, cargo, that kind of thing.
That's the one. You file it before you start hauling, obviously. And then again, within 30 days, if something significant changes, like your address or fleet size.
Okay, but there's that biennial part, the every 2 years update. I heard there's a trick to figuring out your specific year based on the DOT number itself. Can you break that down?
Yeah, absolutely. It's clever, but easy to miss if you're new. So that biennial update schedule, it hinges on the second to last digit of your US DOT number.
Second to last.
If that digit is even 02468, you file your update in even numbered years. If it's odd 13579, you file in odd numbered years.
Simple enough?
It is simple, but the consequences if you miss it, they're huge. Your DOT number can actually be deactivated.
Deactivate, so you can't operate.
Can't operate. No hauling, no revenue, just a massive amount of stress trying to get it fixed.
Wow. Okay, so actionable tip number 1 for everyone listening. Figure out your filing year based on that digit and set a reminder. Like right now, put it in your digital calendar.
Do it immediately. Seriously. It's 5 minutes of effort that saves potentially weeks of downtime.
Good advice. All right, what's next on the must-know list?
Let's talk random drug and alcohol testing. This is huge for safety, obviously, but also for protecting your company's reputation. If you employ CDL drivers, you must follow the FMCSA rules here. No exceptions.
And it's not just one type of test, is it? I know there's several situations where testing is required.
You're right. It's quite comprehensive. You've got pre-employment screening, obviously, before anyone drives for you. Then there are the random tests throughout the year.
The ones nobody expects.
Exactly. Plus, post-accident testing if certain criteria are met. Reasonable suspicion testing if a supervisor observes behavior that suggests impairment. And, if needed, return-to-duty testing after a violation.
Okay, that's a lot of potential tests.
Yeah.
What records do you absolutely need to keep on file for all this?
You need the actual test results, clearly documented, the dates each test was conducted, your company's official drug and alcohol policy, which drivers need to acknowledge, and, if applicable, records of any follow-up or treatment programs a driver went through.
And the risks of getting this wrong.
Steep fines, easily thousands of dollars per violation. But honestly, the worst risk, letting things slip, could mean a dangerous driver stays on the road. That puts lives at risk and could absolutely destroy your business overnight.
Yeah, that puts it in perspective. Okay, moving on. Let's talk about the trucks themselves. Maintenance logs. This feels like keeping medical records, but for your vehicles.
That's the perfect analogy. People need checkups, right? Trucks need regular scheduled maintenance, and just like your doctor keeps detailed notes, you need meticulous logs for everything done to your trucks.
So what exactly should be in those logs?
Everything important. Detailed repair history, records of all service performed, copies of your daily vehicle inspection reports, DVIRs, plus any periodic or annual inspections. And crucially, logs of all your preventive maintenance.
Like oil changes, tire checks, fluid top-offs?
Exactly. All that routine stuff that keeps things running smoothly.
So, obviously, good maintenance keeps the trucks running better, longer. But how do these detailed logs specifically help when it comes to, say, an inspection or an audit?
Well, first off, they're required by the FMCSA, so having them is step one. But having good, organized, ideally digital logs, it makes any roadside inspection or full audit go so much smoother.
Shows you're serious about safety?
It demonstrates your commitment, exactly. And practically speaking, it genuinely helps you track wear and tear, maybe spot patterns, and fix things before they lead to a costly breakdown on the side of the highway.
Makes sense. Okay, final key area for compliance, the one that often involves crossing state lines, dealing with fuel taxes and registration. IFTA and IRP. Can you unpack those acronyms for us?
Sure thing. Let's start with IFTA. That's the International Fuel Tax Agreement. This requires you to file a report every quarter, so 4 times a year.
Every 3 months. And what's in that report?
It details all the fuel you bought and, critically, the miles you drove in each individual state or province you operated in during that quarter.
Okay, so you need good records for that. Fuel receipts, mileage logs.
Absolutely essential. Keep every fuel receipt. You need accurate odometer readings, often tracked by ELDs now, and detailed trip logs showing routes and distances per state.
Got it. And then there's IRP.
Right. IRP is the International Registration Plan. This is basically your multi-state vehicle registration. Instead of registering in every single state, IRP lets you register in your home state and pay fees apportioned to all the states you run in. This one's renewed annually.
Annually. And it also involves mileage reporting.
Yes. For IRP, you report the miles driven in each member jurisdiction over the previous year. That data determines your registration fees for the upcoming year.
So both involve careful tracking of miles per state. What's the damage if you miss these IFTA or IRP deadlines?
Missing deadlines for either can really sting. You're looking at significant fines, penalties, interest, and again, the big disruptor. Your trucks can actually be pulled off the road until you sort it out and get compliant.
Ouch. Okay, so another actionable tip. Get those IFT quarterly dates and your annual IRP renewal date on the calendar. And maybe look into software.
Definitely. Put those dates on the calendar, set reminders. And yes, seriously, consider software designed for mileage and fuel tax reporting. It can automate so much of this, pulling data from ELDs, calculating taxes. It takes a huge burden off your shoulders.
Excellent advice. Okay, now let's shift gears a bit. We've talked about the requirements. How about preparing for the possibility of, well, a real audit? You mentioned mock audits. That sounds proactive.
It is. Imagine this. You get a call. It's the FMCSA. They say, we'll be there in 48 hours to conduct a full safety audit.
Okay, yeah, my heart rate just went up thinking about that.
Right. For a lot of operators, that's pure panic mode. Where are the files? Is everything up to date? The aha moment we want you to have is realizing that panic is totally avoidable if you've done your homework with mock audits.
So it's like a fire drill, but for paperwork.
Yeah.
How do you actually do a mock audit effectively? What are the steps?
First, you act like the auditor. You gather everything they'd ask for. driver qualification files, all your drug and alcohol testing records, hours of service logs, HOS logs, maintenance files for all your trucks, any accident registers. The works.
The whole shebang.
The whole shebang. Then you go through it with a critical eye. Are there gaps? Missing signatures? Outdated forms? Is everything complete and current according to the regulations?
Okay. Checking for completeness. What's next?
Test your accessibility. This is key. Can you actually find and present all the required documents within that 48-hour time frame they usually give you? Or are things scattered everywhere?
Simulating the real pressure.
Exactly. And the final step is crucial. Fix what's broken. If you find gaps, weak spots, disorganized files, address them immediately. Update your processes, maybe train your staff on where things are kept and what to do if a real inspector shows up.
That makes sense. And how often should you do this?
I strongly recommend doing a thorough mock audit at least once a year, maybe even every 6 months if you can manage it. It builds that muscle memory, keeps things sharp, and gives you incredible peace of mind.
Continuous readiness. I like that. Okay, so we know why record keeping matters, what areas to focus on, and how to prepare with mock audits. Let's talk about the day-to-day management. What are some best practices to make this whole process, well, less painful? And what about software?
Okay, best practices. First, secure storage, but also accessibility. FMCSA requires records to be available within 48 hours upon request. That means they need to be producible from your main office, a regional office, or wherever your drivers normally report.
Does it have to be paper, or are digital copies okay?
Good news there, digital is absolutely fine. Scanned copies, electronic records, perfectly acceptable as long as they are clear, legible, and authentic. That really opens up possibilities for easier storage and retrieval.
That's a huge help, I imagine.
Right.
What about things like e-signatures? Are those legit for official documents?
Yep. E-signatures are legally valid and widely used, provided you have a system that can reliably prove who signed the document and when. Most modern document management or compliance software handles this automatically.
Okay. And with all this data, especially driver files, what about protecting sensitive information?
Super important. You need to be careful with sensitive personal data. Think social security numbers, medical info. Limit access strictly to personnel who absolutely need it to do their jobs. Secure storage, password protection, access control, standard data security practices apply.
Right. So doing this all manually sounds like a lot. This is where software comes in.
This is exactly where software can be a lifesaver. Seriously, trying to manage all this with paper files and spreadsheets in 2024, it's possible, but it's tough and prone to error. Cloud-based compliance software can automate and streamline so much of this. It's a real liberation for many companies.
A game changer, probably. So if someone's looking for software, what key features should be on their checklist?
Look for tools that offer comprehensive tracking across the board. Driver qualification files, checking expiry dates, renewals, hours of service monitoring, linking with ELDs, detailed maintenance logs, and scheduling.
Automatic reminders sound helpful, too.
Oh, huge. Automatic alerts for upcoming expiry dates, CDLs, medical cards, training certs, vehicle inspections, IFTA deadlines that alone is worth its weight in gold. Prevents things falling through the cracks.
What else?
Look for digital document signing capabilities, centralized storage that's easily searchable, and critically, an interface that's easy to use during an audit. You want to be able to pull up requested documents quickly and easily for an inspector.
Makes sense. Are there any specific platforms or names that companies often use?
Yeah, there are several good ones out there. You see names like Driver Reach, which is really strong on driver file management and compliance workflows. JJ Teller is a long-standing name with robust tools for maintenance, safety, and broader compliance.
Okay.
And then you have platforms like Samsara or Keep Truckin', often known for their ELDs, but they usually offer broader fleet management suites that include compliance features, vehicle tracking, maintenance modules.
So different options depending on your needs and budget.
Exactly. The key is to find something that fits your operation size and budget. And hey, even if specialized software isn't feasible right now, starting with organized digital folders, say on Google Drive, and using spreadsheets diligently, that's still a massive step up from chaos and paper piles.
Right. Anything is better than a disorganized shoebox.
Anything. The goal is clarity, accessibility, and consistency.
Okay, so let's kind of pull this all together as we wrap up. The big message seems to be compliance and record keeping, while maybe not glamorous, aren't about just ticking boxes or being buried in paperwork. It's really about building a stronger, more reliable business foundation.
That's precisely it. For you listening, the key things to take away are: stay on top of those MCS 150 updates, know your year, be diligent with drug and alcohol testing and the record keeping that goes with it. Keep detailed maintenance logs.
Don't miss those IFTA and IRP deadlines. Do those mock audits to stay prepared.
Yes. Proactive preparation is key. And seriously consider leveraging digital tools, whether it's full software or just better digital organization, to make it all manageable and keep you audit ready.
And when you connect those dots, like you said earlier, it's clear that being organized isn't just about avoiding trouble. It leads to fewer nasty surprises, gives you much better control, and ultimately paves the way for smoother, smarter growth.
Absolutely. Beyond just dodging penalties, mastering this stuff is about building and running a business you can genuinely be proud of, one that's built solid right from the foundation up.
That's a really powerful way to look at it. Which brings us to our final thought for you, the listener, to maybe chew on after this. If getting this cool box mindset right, being meticulous with records, can bring this level of control and confidence to something as complex as trucking, where else? Where else in your business, or maybe even your life, could applying that same kind of systematic organization unlock a similar feeling of peace of mind, control, and maybe even greater success?